It probably happened to you today.
Oh, almost certainly.
Right. Maybe it happened right before you put your headphones on to listen to this deep dive. You're walking past a coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon, a place you visited maybe, I don't know, twice in the last 6 months.
Or you're browsing flights to Chicago, getting distracted by a text message, and you just leave the tab open.
Exactly. Or you're just staring at your phone in a moment of boredom, and then suddenly your screen lights up. A push notification or maybe an in-app message surfaces.
Yeah. And it's just perfectly timed.
It is perfectly timed. The offer isn't generic at all. It almost feels like the brand read your mind. It's anticipating your routine and offering a specific solution right at the very millisecond. You might actually be receptive to it.
Yeah, and we usually just swipe those notifications away, right?
Yeah.
Or we tap them without a second thought.
Right, maybe engaging for like 2 seconds tops.
Exactly. But the hidden machinery required to make that 2-second interaction feel magical rather than, invasive or annoying, it's staggering.
It really is.
I mean, we are talking about billions of data points being processed continuously. They're matched against behavioral models and then executed across multiple channels instantaneously.
Yeah, we just see the message on the lock screen. We don't see the massive engine humming underneath it. So today, our mission is to pull back the curtain on that exact engine.
Which is a fascinating space to dig into right now.
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a comprehensive data-forward look at a very specific, incredibly revealing piece of source material.
Right, we're looking at the Braze Q1 2027 earnings conference call transcript.
Yes. For anyone who hasn't been actively tracking the enterprise software space, Braze is a massive customer engagement platform. Basically, if you've gotten a brilliant personalized notification from a major global brand recently, there is a very high probability that data packet traveled through Braze's architecture.
And earnings calls are just a gold mine for understanding how this technology actually functions in the real world.
Because it's where the marketing spin stops.
Yeah, exactly. The glossy marketing stops and the audited numbers begin. You have the CEO, Bill Magnuson, and the CFO, Isabel Winkles, explaining to Wall Street exactly how their business is operating.
They have to be totally transparent about where the friction points are and what their clients are actually demanding.
Right. So in this specific transcript, we aren't just looking at a successful software company. We are looking at a real-time masterclass in how a leading platform is using applied artificial intelligence.
Applied being the key word there.
Yes, applied AI, using it to fundamentally alter the way brands communicate with consumers.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to the AI deployments and the futuristic consumer behavior, we have to ground ourselves in the sheer scale of the financial reality being discussed here.
That numbers are definitely the place to start.
Always. As retail investors or even just industry observers, we need the headline numbers. And these Q1 2027 results, they are immense. We're looking at an absolute growth engine.
Yeah, the top line revenue is pretty staggering.
Right. In Q1 2027, Braze hit $211 million in revenue. That is a 30% year-over-year increase.
30%.
And the transcript goes out of its way to point out that this is their fourth consecutive quarter of accelerating organic growth.
The acceleration aspect is arguably the most impressive piece of that data point.
How so?
Well, in the enterprise software world, as a platform scales, it usually becomes increasingly difficult to maintain high growth percentages. It's the law of large numbers. It becomes a heavy anchor.
Right. Going from 10 million to 13 million is a 30% jump, but it's relatively easy.
Exactly. It requires some sales velocity, sure. But accelerating your growth rate when your baseline is a $211 million quarterly run rate.
That requires moving mountains.
Yes. It demonstrates that the broader market demand is actually pulling the product out of the company's hands faster than they can push it.
And it appears they aren't just buying that growth by burning cash either, right?
No.
They mentioned their non-GAAP operating margin improved by over 300 basis points year over year.
Which is a very healthy margin expansion.
Definitely. And it generated a record $27 million in free cash flow in the quarter. So they are scaling rapidly while simultaneously dropping actual cash to the bottom line.
Which is exactly what you want to see as an investor.
Right. But the metric that really caught my eye in the transcript, and where I think the Wall Street jargon gets a bit impenetrable for everyday folks, is DBNR.
Ah, yes. Dollar-based net retention.
Yeah. They reported a DBNR of 110% overall and 111% for their large customers. And they define large customers as organizations spending over $500,000 annually.
A very crucial segment of their base.
Absolutely. Now, my baseline understanding of DB&R is that it measures how much more money your current customers are giving you compared to last year, totally ignoring any brand new clients you signed. But why is 110% the magic number that Wall Street cheers for?
That baseline understanding is spot on, actually, and it points to exactly why investors treat DB&R as like the ultimate health metric for any subscription-based business.
Okay, break it down for me.
So, dollar-based net retention isolates the specific cohort of customers you had exactly 1 year ago. It totally strips away the camouflage of new sales.
Right, so you can't just hide bad retention by signing a bunch of new people.
Exactly. So 110% DB&R means that if you look at the group of brands who spent a collective $100 with Braze last year, that exact same group is spending $110 this year.
Wow. Okay.
And the really crucial factor here is that this 110% figure is a net number.
Meaning it includes the people who left.
Yes. It already accounts for the inevitable churn. You know, the companies that went bankrupt, the clients who downgraded their tier, or the brands who left for a competitor.
So the upsells are just masking all of that.
More than masking it. The expansions and upsells from the happy, successful customers are so massive that they completely wipe out any revenue loss from unhappy ones, and then they add another 10% on top of that.
That is wild. I always picture DB&R kind of like a high-end subscription box service.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Say you sign up for a monthly box of like gourmet single origin coffee. A DB&R of 110% means that not only are you completely ignoring the cancel subscription button, but you are actively logging into your account to add premium items.
Like an extra bag of espresso beans or something.
Exactly. A specialized grinder or artisan syrups every single year. You're voluntarily increasing your own monthly bill because the service has just become indispensable to your routine.
That's a great way to put it.
But, you know, thinking about that analogy, I do have to push back a little bit on the narrative.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Braze is so successful at upselling their existing clients, is this 30% revenue jump just the result of squeezing their current base for more cash? I mean, are they actually capturing new territory or just farming the territory they already own?
What's fascinating here is that the transcript provides evidence of a very aggressive dual-engine approach.
Dual engine?
Yeah. They are farming effectively, which we see in the DB&R, but they are also hunting at a very high level.
Okay, what do the numbers say about the hunting?
Well, the existing base is expanding, right? However, the report highlights that Braze added 104 net new customers in the quarter.
104. Okay, that's solid.
But more importantly, we have to look at the caliber of those new customers. The number of clients spending $500,000 or more annually increased by 33% year over year.
Wow.
Yeah, bringing the total to 349 massive customers. And they also crossed a rather staggering milestone in Q1. They now have 5 eight-figure customers.
Wait, really? 8 figures?
Yes. That means there are 5 distinct organizations spending over $10 million a year solely on Braze's software.
$10 million a year on customer engagement software. I mean, that is an astronomical line item in a corporate budget just to send emails and push notifications.
Well, it sounds astronomical until you reframe what customer engagement actually means to a global mega brand.
Okay, reframe it for me.
For these massive enterprises, keeping a consumer engaged, preventing them from deleting an app, or nudging them toward a repeat purchase that isn't a peripheral marketing function anymore.
It's the whole ballgame.
It is the absolute core of the revenue model. Think about it. A 1% increase in retention for a brand with 50 million users. That translates to hundreds of millions of dollars in gross profit.
Okay, yeah, when you put it like that, 10 million is a bargain.
Exactly. So, returning to your question about squeezing versus expanding, they have the retention engine humming at 110%, coupled with massive new enterprise adoption at the very top of the market.
Which is incredibly bullish.
Extremely. When analyzing technology businesses, that dual motion is the ultimate indicator of a platform's structural health.
Yeah, and that dual engine makes the future projections a bit easier to swallow too. The transcript details their RPO, or remaining performance obligations.
Which is a great forward-looking indicator.
Right. For the listener, in plain accounting terms, a performance obligation is just a contract that has been signed, but the service hasn't been delivered yet, meaning the revenue can't legally be recognized on the books.
It's essentially a contractual backlog.
Exactly. And their current RPO sits at $670 million, which is up 28% year over year. And total RPO is an incredible $1.1 billion.
Over $1 billion in guaranteed future revenue.
A massive, legally guaranteed financial cushion stretching out years into the future. That $670 million of current RPO is just the portion they expect to recognize as cash over the 9 or 12 months.
It provides tremendous visibility for investors. It acts as a financial shock absorber.
Yeah, because even if they sold nothing next quarter, the money is still coming in.
Precisely. Even if their sales team completely stopped working tomorrow, they have hundreds of millions of dollars mathematically guaranteed to hit the income statement over the next 4 quarters.
Which proves the 30% growth is a structural reality, not some temporary spike.
Right. It's not driven by a one-off promotion. The numbers paint a picture of total dominance.
They really do. But, numbers don't just manifest out of thin air.
No, they don't.
The natural question to ask after reading these financials is, well, why? Why are legacy brands throwing $500,000 or even $10 million at this specific platform right now?
There has to be a catalyst.
Exactly. What is the technological catalyst driving this urgency? And based on the earnings call, the answer points directly to a massive functional leap in applied artificial intelligence.
Yes, and the word applied is the critical distinction there.
Because everyone is claiming to use AI right now.
Oh, absolutely. For the last several years, the software industry has been just drowning in AI hype. Every legacy tech company has slapped AI-powered onto their landing pages.
Usually just white labeling a basic chatbot and calling it a revolution.
Exactly, it's exhausting. But what Bill Magnuson details in this call is fiercely operational. It's AI deployed in the wild, solving highly complex, mathematically dense, and very expensive problems for marketers at scale.
Let's dig into that, because the transcript details the launch and general availability of 3 major products. You have Braze AI Operator, Agent Console, and Decisioning Studio.
And they aren't giving these away as free beta features to boost their stock price either.
They are heavily monetizing them. The call noted Decisioning Studio alone contributed $5.7 million in revenue in Q1.
And it's growing organically at nearly 27% year over year.
Right. So let's ground these abstract product names in reality, because the transcript provides some phenomenal, actionable examples of what these tools actually do for a business.
The examples are really the best part of the transcript.
Let's start with the first one, involving a company called Clio.
Yeah, Clio represents a perfect case study for the friction of modern digital marketing. They are a global family care platform.
Okay, so highly sensitive data.
Extremely. Their entire business model relies on deeply understanding a member's specific health and family care journey. It's incredibly nuanced data, and their objective was to completely rebuild their member welcome series.
And just for some context for the listener, a welcome series is that critical sequence of communications, usually a mix of emails, SMS, or app notifications that you receive immediately after downloading an app or creating a new account.
Right. It is the digital equivalent of walking into a physical store and being greeted by an associate.
And if the sequence is overwhelming or irrelevant or just annoying, the consumer deletes the app.
And the acquisition cost spent to get that user is completely torched.
Right. The stakes for that initial impression are monumental.
Yeah.
So what was Clio's problem?
Well, Clio possessed a wealth of rich data on their members' needs, but their ambition was being suffocated by their team's bandwidth. Implementing complex, deeply personalized branching logic at scale was simply too manual.
They just didn't have the human power to do it.
Exactly. So they utilized the newly launched Braze AI Operator, which is basically an AI assistant seamlessly embedded directly within the Braze dashboard.
Okay, and the result?
According to the specific metrics shared on the call, a single lifecycle marketing manager at Clio was able to rapidly build, code, and quality assure an entirely upgraded, highly complex welcome experience.
Wait, a single manager?
One person. And this new experience automatically adapted to individual member profiles.
When I read that part of the transcript, it literally stopped me in my tracks. Because if you look at how marketing departments operated even, 3 years ago, building a dynamic multi-channel welcome series required a small army.
Oh yeah, a whole team.
You needed a copywriter to draft the variants, an HTML developer to code the emails, a data analyst to write the SQL queries pulling the right audience segments,
And a QA tester to make sure the branching logic didn't accidentally send a maternity email to someone looking for elder care.
Exactly. The AI operator basically condense that entire department's workflow into the hands of one person. And the numbers they shared are staggering.
Go ahead and run through those because they're wild.
Unsubscribes across the new Welcome series plummeted by 81%.
81%.
Opt-outs on the very first email dropped by 97%. And the ultimate metric, app opens increased by an astonishing 284%.
Consider the financial return on that single AI deployment for a second.
It's massive.
You have one individual leveraging an operator tool to essentially quadruple the fundamental engagement rate of new users, while simultaneously eliminating the friction that was causing people to actively opt out of the ecosystem.
It's the ultimate efficiency play.
Right. It demonstrates that true enterprise AI isn't simply a cost-cutting measure designed to fire copywriters.
It's an enhancement tool.
Exactly. It is about executing strategies better, faster, and more safely than humanly possible, given the sheer volume of permutations required.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The scale gets even larger, with the next example from the call. Luxury Escapes.
Ah, yes. The travel brand.
Right. They are a massive global travel brand boasting 9 million members. And they deployed the Braze AI agent console to fundamentally replace their outdated rules-based segmentation.
Now, to appreciate the leap forward here, we really need to examine the architecture of traditional marketing automation.
Okay, take us through it.
For over a decade, marketing logic was rigidly rules-based. A human strategist would build a decision tree, right? Like, if the user abandons their shopping cart, and if they haven't purchased in 30 days, then send them an email 24 hours later containing a 10% discount code.
Very linear.
It is a highly binary, threshold-driven system. If condition X is met, execute action Y.
It's essentially like setting up physical tripwires in a hallway. The consumer walks down the digital hallway, hits the invisible wire, and the system mechanically drops a pre-planned coupon on their head.
That's a brilliant way to visualize it. But human behavior, especially regarding luxury travel, isn't a series of binary tripwires.
No, it's messy and complicated.
Right. What Luxury Escapes achieved with the AI agent console was a transition to context-based marketing.
Context-based, meaning what exactly?
Instead of relying on rigid, predefined thresholds, the AI agent continuously and simultaneously evaluated 10 distinct behavioral signals for every single new user.
10 signals at once.
Yeah. It ingested data on what properties they viewed, how long they lingered on a page, what dates they were searching, their past engagement history.
Wow.
And it used all 10 signals to route them into the optimal welcome cohort in real time.
And what was the bottom line result for them?
This sophisticated routing resulted in a 10% overall lift in revenue per user, driven by vastly superior conversion rates.
The detail Bill Magnuson mentioned that completely fascinated me wasn't just about the emails the AI sent. It was about the actions the AI deliberately chose not to take.
Yes, this is key.
The AI evaluated those 10 behavioral signals, and crucially, it actively avoided taking the lazy route. It didn't just default everyone into a generic promotional cohort.
It didn't just blanket the user base with discount codes to force a quick sale.
Right. It actually understood the context of the user's intent.
And that capability is the holy grail for a retail brand, because blanket discounts are absolute margin destroyers.
Right. If someone was going to buy at full price anyway, giving them a coupon is just throwing money away.
Exactly. A rigid, rules-based system frequently defaults to sending a discount because it's the most frictionless way to trigger a conversion and hit a quarterly quota.
But the AI is smarter than that.
Right. An intelligent, context-aware AI agent can evaluate a user and conclude, based on these 10 simultaneous signals, this specific individual is demonstrating high intent to purchase a premium package at full price.
So don't send the coupon.
Exactly. Sending them a 10% discount would be burning margin unnecessarily. Instead, they require a message highlighting the exclusive spa amenities of the resort.
Optimizing for long-term customer lifetime value, protecting profit margins, and ignoring the temptation for short-term margin-eroding clicks. That requires a level of sophistication previously reserved for, high-end human luxury concierges.
It essentially replicates the intuition of a master salesperson, but scales it to a room containing 9 million individual customers simultaneously.
Incredible. And speaking of scale, The third example from the call pushes the volume even higher. The transcript details a global hotel franchisee possessing 114 million loyalty members.
Now, when dealing with an audience of 114 million members, the primary operational bottleneck shifts completely.
It's a whole different game.
It is no longer just about setting up the audience segments, it is about the testing infrastructure.
Right, like how do you actually prove what works?
Exactly. How do you mathematically prove which message, image, or delivery time works best across hundreds of different demographics? Historically, this specific franchisee was trapped in a grueling manual 10-week testing cycle.
10 weeks just to run a test.
Yes, a process was agonizingly slow. You build a campaign hypothesis, isolate a small control group, deploy the test, wait weeks for statistical significance to build.
Have analysts crunch the data.
Right, and then finally deploy the winning variant to the remaining 110 million members.
But by the time a 10-week cycle concludes, the macroeconomic environment could have shifted. A competitor could have launched a rival campaign, or the seasonal travel window might have completely closed.
Exactly.
10 weeks is practically a geologic era in digital commerce.
It really is. So to solve this, they adopted Braze AI Decisioning Studio. And this tool entirely eradicated that 10-week manual cycle, replacing it with continuous automated experimentation.
But it's always testing.
Constantly. The AI isn't running a single A/B test. It is continuously, in real time, testing hundreds of simultaneous permutations. It dynamically adjusts the message copy, the delivery timing, the communication channel, and the creative imagery for each individual member.
Learning and optimizing with every single send.
Yes. And the outcome was a double-digit percentage increase in overall click-through rates across their massive member base.
You know, when you extrapolate the implications of these three examples, Clio, luxury escapes, and the hotel franchise, it suggests a complete dismantling of the traditional marketing organization chart.
It really is a paradigm shift.
10 years ago, a marketing department resembled an assembly line. You had massive teams of specialized technicians, HTML coders, SQL database analysts, QA testers, deliverability experts, all required just to push a single campaign out the door.
Right.
But the narrative in this earnings call implies a rapid shift toward lean, hyper-agile pods of what management called builder marketers.
Yeah, the role of the marketer is undergoing a fundamental philosophical shift right now.
How so?
They are no longer the infantry in the trenches writing the code or manually pulling audience lists. The marketer is evolving into a conductor of a highly capable, autonomous orchestra.
I love that. The AI tools are the musicians.
Right. The operators and agents are playing the specific instruments. The marketer's core function is to compose the strategic symphony, define the brand constraints, establish the financial goals.
And then just unleash the AI.
Exactly. Unleash the AI to execute wildly complex, multivariable campaigns in a single afternoon that historically demanded months of cross-departmental coordination.
I mean, it sounds incredibly utopian.
Yeah.
The software does the heavy lifting, the marketer gets to be purely strategic, and the consumer gets perfect recommendations.
It does sound perfect.
But reading deeper into the transcript, the reality of deploying this technology is decidedly less magical and far more industrial, which brings us to the operational friction of scaling advanced technology.
This was undeniably one of the most transparent and revealing segments of the entire earnings call.
Yeah, specifically the commentary from CFO Isabel Winkles.
Right. She noted that the market demand for these advanced AI capabilities, specifically the decisioning studio, was so immense that Braze actually triggered a severe supply constraint in Q4.
Okay, I have to pause on that point because it seems entirely contradictory to the narrative we just built.
Oh, for sure.
Wait, if this AI is genuinely so intelligent, so automated, and specifically designed to replace the manual labor of 100 people, why does Braze require an army of human engineers just to install it?
It's a great paradox.
Right. Isabel Winkles explicitly stated they were forced to delay customer start dates by over 4 months simply because they lacked the personnel to deploy the software. If it's just software, why isn't it an instant download?
This raises an important question, and it beautifully punctures the pervasive Silicon Valley myth surrounding enterprise AI.
The myth being that it's just magic.
Exactly. We are constantly fed this polished narrative that AI is a plug-and-play miracle. You sign the contract, flip a switch in the cloud, and the next morning your business is digitally transformed.
But that's not what happens.
The brutal reality is that integrating an advanced AI brain into a messy, sprawling, legacy enterprise data architecture is a monumentally complex engineering challenge.
It's not just a software update.
No, it demands a highly specialized discipline known in the industry as context engineering.
Okay, I heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out applied to AI models. My understanding is that if you take a raw, incredibly powerful AI and just drop it into a corporate database without any guardrails, it will either leak highly sensitive internal documents or hallucinate wildly inappropriate offers to customers.
Both of which are catastrophic for a brand.
Right. Is context engineering the science of preventing the AI from losing its mind?
That is exactly the problem context engineering attempts to solve. To understand the mechanics, we have to look at how large language models, or LLMs, fundamentally operate.
Okay, let's get into the weeds a bit.
If you license a generic LLM, a foundational model similar to the raw engine behind ChatGPT, and command it to manage your global marketing strategy, it will fail spectacularly. Because it possesses general internet knowledge, but it has zero contextual awareness of your brand voice. It doesn't know your current inventory levels, and it absolutely does not know the highly specific chronological purchase history of your individual customers.
It basically exists in a vacuum.
Right. And when an LLM operates in a vacuum, it hallucinates. It confidently invents facts to fill the void.
So to make the AI operationally useful, you must aggressively feed it your proprietary data.
Yes, but you cannot simply dump your company's entire raw database, petabytes of unstructured logs, customer service transcripts, and inventory spreadsheets into the LLM's prompt window.
Because of privacy.
First, yes, doing so creates an unacceptable security and privacy nightmare, potentially exposing PII, or personally identifiable information, to external servers. But second, the financial mechanics of AI make it impossible.
Explain the financial side of that.
LLMs operate on a pricing model based on tokens, which roughly equate to words or subwords. Every piece of data you feed the model and every word it generates costs a fraction of a cent.
Oh, so it adds up fast.
If you send 10 million rows of irrelevant historical data to the LLM every single time you want it to decide whether to send a push notification, the compute costs will literally bankrupt the marketing department in a matter of days.
So you have to be surgically selective about what the AI is allowed to see. You basically have to curate its reality.
That curation is context engineering. It is the sophisticated science of data pre-processing. Braze effectively positions itself as this vital, intelligent layer sitting between the brand's raw, chaotic data warehouse and the AI model.
So they act as the filter.
Exactly. Before the AI is asked to make a decision, Braze's platform rapidly filters, structures, and compresses only the hyper-relevant, clean, first-party data necessary for that exact millisecond.
It transforms raw data into dense, highly specific prompts.
Yes. And this architectural layer drastically slashes token costs, saving the brand a fortune in compute power while simultaneously forcing the AI to strictly adhere to verifiable truths.
Effectively eliminating the risk of hallucinations. But to build that perfectly tailored, context-engineered pipeline for a brand new multinational client, you need brilliant human beings who understand both data science and the client's specific business logic.
Right. You can't automate the setup of the automation.
It's an incredible paradox.
Yeah.
You need deep human data science expertise, careful strategic alignment with the brand's goals, and meticulous integration into their existing data lakes.
And that human bottleneck is exactly why Braze had to aggressively recruit and deploy what they classify as forward deployed delivery personnel, or FDEs.
These are highly technical human engineers who act as the shock troops, essentially.
Yes. They physically or virtually go into the client's organization and painstakingly wire the brand's data pipes into the Braze AI engine.
The transcript notes that they initiated massive group onboarding sessions in Q1 to wrap up these new engineering hires as quickly as possible. And management claimed they actually managed to cut those 4-month implementation delays in half.
Which is a huge operational win.
It is. However, this massive influx of human capital to solve a software problem explains a very interesting accounting shift in their financial tables. Professional services now account for 7% of Braze's total revenue.
And Isabel Winkles was highly intentional about clarifying the specific line item for the Wall Street analysts on the call.
Why? Because analysts hate services revenue, right?
In the ecosystem of software investing, analysts generally despise professional services revenue. They want pure, high-margin, infinitely scalable, recurring software subscription revenue.
Because human consultants are expensive, their margins are lower, and you cannot scale them with the push of a button. If you want to double your professional services revenue, you generally have to double your headcount, which destroys the operating leverage.
Right. But she strategically pointed out that 85% of this specific professional services revenue is actually recurring in nature.
Wait, recurring services, how does that work?
It is structurally recognized over the life of the contract, mirroring the financial behavior of a software subscription. This shift occurred because of a strategic repackaging.
Okay, so what do they repackage?
Braze took their customer success entitlements, the dedicated ongoing technical guidance and strategic consulting required to keep these complex AI engines running optimally, and separated them into distinct line items, or SKUs, that customers explicitly purchase.
I see.
This move provides clients with total transparency regarding what they are paying for, but it had the optical effect of shifting millions of dollars from the subscription column to the services column on the balance sheet.
It's a profound realization, really. Whenever you engage with a truly seamless, magical AI experience on your phone, whether it's an airline app dynamically rebooking your canceled flight while offering a lounge pass, or a retail app suggesting the exact size of shoes you need, remember the hidden labor behind it.
It is never just magic.
Behind every elegant AI decision, there is a massive invisible human infrastructure. There are forward-deployed engineers who spent months ensuring the data pipes were connected securely, cleanly, and legally.
The AI might be the sharp tip of the spear, but human engineering is the dense wooden shaft providing the force.
I love that. And understanding that friction, the sheer difficulty of properly deploying enterprise AI, is the perfect conceptual bridge to understanding why Braze is currently dominating the competitive landscape.
It really is.
Because if it is this operationally challenging for a modern, agile company like Braze to implement these systems, try to imagine the catastrophic failure rate for their older, legacy competitors attempting the exact same feats.
Right. Which brings us to a major theme of the call: the competitive moat and the aggressive legacy replacement cycle.
Bill Magnuson spoke at length about a wave of new business driven entirely by brands ripping out their old systems.
And the list of Q1 wins reads like a corporate who's who.
It really does. Bandora Group, ClassPass, Denny's, Subway, major apparel brands in France, massive wagering companies in Australia, and perhaps most tellingly, a prominent, unnamed AI lab.
They are systematically dismantling the market share of the older marketing clouds.
Though, to be fair to the complete financial picture, management did acknowledge the slight dip in gross margins down to 69.3%.
Yes, the margin compression is an important data point, but it appears largely operational rather than structural.
What drove it?
It was primarily driven by the absorption of that new implementation headcount we just analyzed, combined with a significant increase in what they call premium messaging volumes.
Leaving text messages.
Yeah, when brands send messages through channels like WhatsApp or carrier-grade SMS text messages, telecom companies charge transit fees. Braze passes those carrier costs through, which naturally dilutes the gross margin percentage slightly.
So it's not a fundamental flaw in the software margin.
No, exactly. However, the far more consequential narrative here is the crippling tech debt strangling their legacy competitors.
Magnuson was surprisingly pointed about this concept of tech debt. He argued that the foundational architectural choices Braze made when the company was founded in 2011 are precisely the choices that modern AI infrastructure demands today.
Specifically, he highlighted that Braze built a real-time stream processor.
Can you break down the physics of stream processing versus the architecture legacy competitors are trapped in? Because this seems central to the bullish thesis.
To grasp the magnitude of this advantage, we have to perform a brief tech history lesson. Consider how the older legacy marketing systems were constructed, mostly designed in the late 90s or early 2000s.
A completely different era of the internet.
Right. The internet was different. These platforms were built explicitly for desktop email, and email marketing at its core was a batch and blast philosophy.
Batch and blast.
A marketer would compile a massive list of 3 million email addresses, load that massive data file into a batch processor, and schedule the server to send them all simultaneously at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday.
It's all about doing things in huge chunks.
Exactly. The entire software architecture was engineered to ingest, process, and output data in gigantic, slow-moving, discrete batches.
I visualize it like trying to transport a massive amount of water across a city by filling up enormous heavy buckets and carrying them one by one. It gets the water there eventually, but it takes time to fill the bucket, move the bucket, and empty the bucket.
A perfect visualization. However, Braze was conceived during the explosion of the mobile era. And mobile interaction is fundamentally not a batch process. It is inherently event-driven.
Right, it's sporadic.
A user clicks a button, swipes a screen, physically enters a geofenced location around a retail store, or abandons a digital shopping cart. These are isolated individual events occurring continuously, asynchronously, and globally.
You can't put those in a bucket.
No. To handle this, Braze engineered a stream processor. Instead of waiting for a bucket to fill, a stream processor handles data sequentially, continuously, and relentlessly in real time, executing logic millisecond by millisecond as the events occur.
So, abandoning the bucket analogy, a stream processor is like installing a continuous high-pressure, digitally monitored water pipe. The water just flows constantly.
And here's the fatal flaw for legacy systems attempting to adopt AI. Artificial intelligence models require absolute real-time context to make accurate decisions.
They need the data right now.
Exactly. If an AI agent is attempting to personalize a push notification for you right this exact second based on an article you tapped on 3 seconds ago, a batch processing system is functionally useless.
Because it doesn't know about the tap yet.
The batch system won't update its central database with your tap event until the overnight server sync occurs 14 hours later. The AI is operating blind, trying to make real-time decisions using yesterday's data.
It's kind of like buying a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art smart home system, complete with voice-activated dynamic lighting, algorithmic climate control, and predictive security cameras, and trying to wire it into a historic house that still uses 100-year-old electrical wiring.
It just won't work.
You can mount the sleek, modern hub on the wall. But the moment that system tries to draw the massive amount of power required to communicate with all the sensors simultaneously, the archaic wiring physically melts down. It simply cannot handle the load.
And the legacy marketing clouds are that 100-year-old house.
Because Braze built their stream processor natively for mobile, they essentially constructed their entire house using fiber optics from day one.
The analogy absolutely holds up under technical scrutiny. The legacy systems are flailing right now, desperately trying to bolt modern LLMs onto batch process databases.
They're drowning in tech debt.
Exactly. The astronomical financial and temporal cost of having to go back and rewrite millions of lines of decades-old foundational code just to survive in a modern environment. Braze possesses zero of that specific legacy debt, which is the primary reason their engineering teams can invent, test, and commercially deploy complex tools like Decisioning Studio with such aggressive velocity.
During the Q&A section of the earnings call, an analyst actually asked a question that triggered a deeply philosophical response from the CEO about why brands are suddenly in such a panicked rush to rip out these legacy systems and endure the pain of migration right now.
It was a very telling moment.
It ties into a futuristic concept called agentic commerce. I genuinely believe this is a concept every consumer, and certainly every investor, needs to intimately understand because it dictates the next decade of the internet.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to the macro evolution of the consumer internet agentic commerce, is the looming reality that very soon human beings will largely cease performing the mundane mechanics of online shopping.
Basically, bots buying from bots.
Right. Instead of opening your laptop, navigating to 5 different browser tabs, comparing reviews for running shoes, hunting for discount codes on sketchy coupon sites, and manually entering your credit card details, you will simply delegate the task.
To your personal AI.
Yes. You will instruct the personal AI agent residing on your phone. Buy me the most highly reviewed pair of running shoes suitable for marathon training, ensure they arrive by Thursday, and do not spend more than $150.
And it just goes and does it.
Your personal AI agent will then autonomously venture out into the internet, parse the inventory databases, negotiate with the retailer's own AI agents, apply the optimal routing, and execute the financial transaction all in the background.
As a consumer, that sounds like an absolute utopia. It totally eliminates the friction and cognitive load of digital chores. But if I put myself in the shoes of a brand executive, if I am the CEO of Nike or Sephora or Delta Airlines, that scenario is utterly terrifying.
It represents a literal existential threat to their business models.
Because they lose the human connection.
Exactly. Because if the human consumer completely delegates the purchasing decision to a ruthless, logical algorithm, the brand instantly loses its direct emotional relationship with the human being. The brand gets violently cut out of the loop.
The consumer's AI agent becomes an impenetrable middleman.
We actually have historical precedent for this exact destruction of margins. We watched it happen a decade ago in the travel and hospitality industry with the rise of online travel agencies, or OTAs, like Expedia and Booking.com.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The physical hotels lost their direct relationship with the traveler.
I remember that shift vividly.
Yeah.
Because I stopped caring about which specific hotel chain I was staying at.
Yep.
I didn't care about their brand promise or their loyalty points. I just went to Expedia, sorted by price, filtered by 4 stars, and bought whatever the algorithm told me was the most efficient choice.
The hotels became commoditized, invisible inventory suppliers to the OTA's interface.
And brands across every sector, retail, dining, finance, are staring down the barrel of that exact same commoditization, but on a global AI-driven scale.
They realize that their only viable defense against being reduced to a generic margin-crushed supplier for consumer bots is to build an impenetrable, fiercely loyal relationship with the human consumer before the bots achieve total market penetration.
So they have to secure the loyalty now.
They must forge a bond so strong that the consumer specifically instructs their AI, buy me Nike running shoes, rather than simply requesting generic athletic footwear. Building that emotional and data-driven moat requires mastering customer relationship management at a granular level.
That is a profound realization. Brands aren't just buying Braze to send better emails. They are buying it to construct a defensive fortress.
Absolutely.
They are upgrading their infrastructure right now, absorbing the pain of migrating their data to build a moat of loyalty against the impending wave of consumer-controlled AI agents. That dynamic creates a massive, long-term macroeconomic tailwind for any company positioned like Braze.
It creates immense urgency in the sales pipeline, and understanding that structural urgency transitions us perfectly into the final section of our analysis.
Right. The forward-looking financial guidance, the leadership transitions, and how Wall Street is digesting all of this strategic maneuvering.
Because the numbers have to back up the story.
We've covered the technological architecture, the operational bottlenecks, and the futuristic strategy. But ultimately, an earnings call is an exercise in projecting the financial future. So let's examine the guidance management provided to the street.
Let's hear it.
For Q2, they expect revenue to land between $219.5 million and $220.5 million. Mathematically, that represents 22% year-over-year growth.
Okay.
Looking further out, for the full fiscal year, they are guiding for total revenue between $895 million and $899 million. Crucially, they also reiterated a firm promise to the market to expand their operating margins by 400 basis points for the fiscal year.
Now, a highly critical observer or a skeptical hedge fund analyst might look at those projections and formulate a pretty bearish thesis.
What would they say?
They'd say, wait a minute, you just proudly reported 30% growth in Q1. Now you are only guiding for 22% growth in Q2. That is a clear deceleration in momentum.
I had that exact thought while reading the release. Wall Street notoriously punishes software companies that show any signs of top-line deceleration, regardless of the absolute numbers.
They frequently do punish it. But to accurately assess the health of the business, you must view that 22% through the dual lenses of massive scale and rapid profitability.
How does profitability change the equation?
In the software industry, investors often rely on a benchmark known as the Rule of 40. The principle dictates that a software company's year-over-year revenue growth rate added to its profit margin should equal 40% or higher.
Okay, so growth plus margin equals 40.
Right. For a very long time, during the era of zero interest rates and cheap capital, technology companies achieved that 40% threshold entirely through brute force hypergrowth. A company would grow top-line revenue at 60%, but operate with a negative 20% profit margin.
They intentionally burned massive piles of venture capital to aggressively acquire market share.
Exactly, assuming they could figure out profitability later.
The classic Silicon Valley paradigm. Growth at all costs, subsidize the user base, and worry about the unit economics when you go public.
But the macroeconomic tectonic plates have shifted violently. Capital is no longer free. Interest rates are real. Investors now fiercely demand actual profitability and cash generation.
And Braze is pivoting to that.
What Braze's management is signaling with this specific guidance is a highly deliberate, mature transition in their corporate life cycle. Yes, the raw top-line growth percentage is moderating slightly from a blistering 30% down to a highly respectable 22%.
But generating 22% growth when your denominator is approaching $1 billion of annual recurring revenue translates to massive absolute dollar growth.
Right, and more importantly, they are committing to expanding their operating margins by 400 basis points. They are actively demonstrating that they can become deeply profitable and generate heavy free cash flow while still growing at a rate most enterprise companies would envy.
It represents the difficult transition from a high-burn, high-risk startup darling into a mature, cash-generating enterprise standard. They are proving to the public markets that they possess a sustainable, highly profitable business model that works in a high interest rate environment.
Which is very comforting for a retail investor holding the stock.
However, there was one piece of corporate news buried in the call that typically introduces severe volatility into that narrative of stability. The CFO, Isabel Winkles, announced she is stepping away from the company after a 6-year tenure.
A C-suite departure is always heavily scrutinized. But a CFO departure is particularly sensitive.
The ultimate guardian of the numbers.
Exactly. When they abruptly leave, the market instinctually panics, wondering, does the CFO know a dark secret the rest of us don't? Are the accounting books cooked? Is the growth about to hit a brick wall?
But analyzing the tone of the call, the transition seemed incredibly amicable, almost celebratory. Bill Magnuson spent a significant amount of time praising her specific accomplishments.
Right, noting that she successfully guided the company through the treacherous waters of their IPO.
She helped scale the operation from a smaller footprint to nearly $1 billion in ARR and fundamentally engineered their current path to profitability.
The context of the underlying metrics is what prevents a panic here. This is why our deep dive into the Section 1 data is so vital.
Because the numbers don't lie.
If a CFO were announcing their departure while the remaining performance obligations were shrinking, or if the dollar-based net retention had collapsed below 100%, or if a company was bleeding free cash flow, the stock would likely plummet.
The market would assume she was fleeing a sinking ship.
Instead, she is exiting, having just delivered a balance sheet containing $392 million in pure cash, a pristine 110% DBNR, accelerating future contract visibility, and record positive free cash flow.
The financial foundation she is leaving behind is built on solid bedrock.
The strength of those audited numbers projects immense corporate stability, strongly suggesting to the market that this is simply a natural personal career transition after a grueling 6-year sprint rather than a desperate evacuation.
It really forms a fascinating, cohesive narrative when you piece all these disparate data points together. We have covered a monumental amount of ground in this analysis, traversing from dense accounting metrics to the philosophical future of digital commerce.
It's a lot to process.
To distill this entire earnings transcript down to its core essence, Braze is actively demonstrating with audited financial proof that artificial intelligence is no longer just a conceptual roadmap item or a shiny marketing buzzword.
It is currently deployed in the wild,
solving complex data problems and driving highly tangible, massive returns on investment for enterprise brands. We saw the mathematical proof of that with Clio's 284% increase in application opens.
Absolutely.
Furthermore, Braze is successfully navigating the hidden, messy human bottlenecks of AI deployment, leveraging their forward-deployed engineers to perform the vital context engineering required to make LLMs actually function safely.
And strategically, they are wielding their native, real-time stream processing architecture as a blunt instrument
to aggressively rip and replace legacy competitors who are hopelessly bogged down by decades of batch processing tech debt. They are accomplishing all of this while successfully executing the difficult financial transition into a highly profitable, mature, cash-generating enterprise.
So what does this all mean for the future of the internet?
It indicates that the fundamental infrastructure of digital communication has irrevocably shifted. The era of static, rules-based marketing is dead.
Gone completely.
Brands are now rapidly arming themselves with autonomous tools capable of understanding context, nuance, and user intent at a granular individual level. And these tools are continuously optimizing their strategies in real time, millisecond by millisecond. Which brings me to a final, slightly provocative thought to leave you to ponder. We spent significant time analyzing agentic commerce The looming reality of human consumers utilizing personal AI bots to seamlessly manage their shopping and digital chores.
Right.
As platforms like Braze empower major brands to build incredibly intelligent, context-aware AI agents designed to analyze, predict, and message consumers. And as we, the consumers, increasingly deploy our own personal AI agents to ruthlessly filter our emails, block unwanted notifications, and autonomously negotiate our purchases.
I see where you're going with this.
Are we hurtling toward a future where human-to-human marketing becomes entirely obsolete? Will the future of consumer engagement simply consist of a brand server rack, quietly negotiating with the microchip inside your phone, executing transactions in the background, while you remain completely oblivious to the hyper-complex millisecond digital war being waged for your loyalty?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question that every CEO is currently losing sleep over. And the companies successfully building the smartest, fastest, and most contextually aware machines today are the ones who will dictate the terms of that digital battlefield tomorrow.
A truly fascinating, slightly terrifying thought to conclude on. Thank you for joining us on this extensive deep dive and for taking the time to thoroughly unpack the operational reality hiding behind the headline numbers.
It's been great digging into it.
You can confidently walk into any strategy meeting today knowing you possess a deeper understanding of the collision between enterprise AI and consumer behavior than almost anyone else in the room. We will see you next time.